good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, what is the characteristic of Bharatanatyam? What's so unique about that?
As for Bharatanatyam, Bharatanatyam is one of the 7 forms of Indian classical dances. Uh, Rather, I would say now it's about 9 forms, yeah, because 2 more forms have been recognized under the Indian classical dances. So, Bharatanatyam is from South India. The origin is from Chennai, the south of India. Yeah, Tamil Nadu. So, so unique about Bharatanatyam? Well, I would say every classical dance form is very unique because it has got attributes of the place it belongs to, the ethnicity, the culture, the language. So, I guess altogether, every classical dance that comes from a particular region makes it very different from the other classical. Like, suppose, for instance, Kathak is one of the Indian classical dance forms, and it comes from Uttar Pradesh, the north of India. Yeah. So, if you look at the costume of Kathak, it's a very flowy skirt with a top, and they use a shawl or something on top. And if you go to the south side, Tamil Nadu, the costume is more or less like a sari, tailored with pleats and fans. Because if you look at the south of India, the attire or the cultural attire is sari, and if you look at the northern side, the cultural attire is something like a kurta and a pajama. This is called a kurta. This is called a pajama. So these are usually two-piece thing, which even in the classical dances, this is reflected. Then comes, okay, in terms of the dance, classical dance has got, Bharatanatyam has got elements both of the masculine and the feminine entities in the dance. So the masculine, the agility, the firmness, the energy in Bharatanatyam is known as Tandava. Now, Tandava is derived from the cosmic energy, from the cosmic source of the presiding deity of Bharatanatyam, who is also known as Lord Shiva. Now, Lord Shiva is the presiding deity of Bharatanatyam, from which we derive the energy and the agility in Bharatanatyam. Now, the softer part, or the more gentle and the feminine part, is derived from Lord Shiva's better half, who is Parvati. So you can say that in terms of the movements, the symmetry, the lines, the very aesthetic and subtle abhinaya. Okay, now abhinaya is expression.
Oh,
Expression. So Bharatanatyam gives a lot of importance on the facial expression. Like, in fact, for all the Indian classical dance forms, there is no verbal communication. There's no verbal, and we do say a lot of stories. We do say a lot of stories from the greatest of Indian epics, and like a lot of gods and a lot of other universal features. We do say a lot of stories, but all of this is said through gestures, which are also known as mudras. Like, this is pataka, this is tripataka, ardhpataka. So like this, there are a lot of mudras. Then you have double-handed mudras, like that. And then you have the facial expressions, like the 9 kinds of expressions. Like, you have Shringara, which is the emotion of love, the sentiment of love. Then there is Raudra, which is anger. Then there is Bibhatsa, which is disgust. Then there is, so there are these 9 emotions.
Right.
So it's very detailed if you look at all the aspects of it. Like, sometimes you don't need to understand the language even. It's a South Indian language, so as for other ethnicities, it is difficult. I mean, of course, they won't be able to relate to it, but then the way we connect to the audience in terms of what the expressions say is very clear. So it's very detailed. So that way, we can make it very communicative to the audience.
Okay, so we jump to the next question.
Yes, sure.
So, what is the difference about the Bharatanatyam and others Indians culture dance?
Right. So, as I have already mentioned about the classical Indian classical dance forms, apart from that, because Indian classical dance forms are very stylized, they have their regulations. They have, like every classical dance, you do follow a book, which is the book on dance written by great, sages and all. So we got to follow that. The guidelines need to be followed there. Apart from the Indian classical dance forms, the states, the different states in India do have their own dance forms, which they usually perform during, say, a wedding or a harvesting season, or say a change of climate, and they are happy, so they perform, so they dance. Because I think to express happiness, the simplest thing you can do is to just dance. Even people who cannot dance are like a stylized form. I mean, you put on music, they'll still be tapping their foot. So we all sway, move to music. So like that in India, because India is a land of festivals, India is a land of so many seasons, and anywhere you go, you have these green fields, a lot of greenery, different climates, different language, different costumes. So definitely there, with not just Bharatanatyam and other Indian cultural dances, but every state's different dance forms are very unique in terms of their appearance, in terms of the song, in terms of the instruments used. Like in Bharatanatyam, the musical instruments that are used is on percussion is called mridangam, the percussion, mridangam. And then the guru or the teacher who is teaching uses a thing called natuvangam, which is a bronze plate which hits another plate over here and creates some kind of rhythm on which the dancer dances. Without that, that's the most important instrument. Then you have the violin. The violin, it's an Indian classical instrument. Then you have flute. So, like that, around 4 to 5 musical instruments in Bharatanatyam. So, with every Indian classical dance forms, the instruments also differ. Like in Kathak, they use the percussion instrument is known as pakhavaj, what they use. Like in Bharatanatyam, they used mridangam. Kathak, they used pakhavaj with tabla, and so it all changes. I mean, it's very very distinct in terms of the dance form as such, the costume, the music, the musical instruments, language, everything. Yeah, so it is quite unique.
Okay, so why do you think Bharatanatyam is not recognized by other race in Malaysia?
Okay, so well, I wouldn't completely agree to that, because I do feel that, in fact, nowadays, like from the time I have come to Malaysia, it's been 3 years plus now I'm here and practicing Indian classical dance form. And although I would agree to the fact that the number of students that are there with me maximum are the Indian Malaysians, but I do have some Chinese learning Bharatanatyam from me. So, and I do always get a mixed crowd when I'm performing. So, yeah, but of course, definitely a majority are Indian Malaysians, definitely. I wouldn't deny that. I would say it's because somewhere the performances aren't very interactive to the audience. As I already said, that every dance form has got its own language. So, as such, Bharatanatyam with its language, Tamil, which cannot be understood by other ethnicities here. So it becomes a little difficult for other ethnicities to connect to the dance. But then, yes, there are ways to make it very, very interactive to them as well. Because, okay, so now I'm working on a production of mine which will be premiering next year around June. It's on one of the heroines from uh, a great Indian epic Mahabharata. The heroine's name is Draupadi. Now I'm doing this in a solo dance conceptualized with a theatrical setup. Like you will have dialogues in between, and there's gonna be a story that follows. There's gonna be a narration, and all of this is gonna be in English. apart from the music, which will be pure Bharatanatyam music in Tamil, the theatre part brings in an interactive perspective to whoever is sitting in the audience. When I deliver the dialogues in English, for instance, everyone can understand where is the story going and taking them to. So it wouldn't be very hard for them to relate to Bharatanatyam. Well, I believe the question that you asked me, that why is it, I think I've already answered that it's only because the performances are not very interactive. I think if we can make it interesting for other ethnicities, definitely Bharatanatyam will be enjoyed by other ethnicities like every other theatre or any other drama performances going around. Yeah.
Would you like to talk about your upcoming production?
Yeah, sure. My upcoming production will be premiering somewhere around June. I'm still working on it. I'm still, I would say, on the initial stages, because a solo production like this takes a real long time. Like, I started conceptualizing this somewhere in the beginning of the year. And so there are these layers of production which plays a very important role. Like, first you conceptualize it in the head, like, what you want to do. So there was this character called Draupadi all the time. In fact, I started reading a lot of books on her. So Draupadi, this character or this heroine from Indian mythology, from the greatest Indian epic Mahabharata, is is someone who has always been blamed for causing a big battle which killed thousands and thousands of people, which happened in Mahabharata. Like, people who are aware of this Indian epic, they would know that Mahabharata is a battle which continued days together, rather months together, and it killed. I mean, there was a lot of loss of life and all that. So Draupadi is held responsible for all that. Now here she comes, and she unfolds the different layers right from her birth to the time the battle actually happened, and says it's her unheard plea, basically, a plea by Draupadi, like a plea to the audience, to the people listening there, that do you really, even after going through all of this, feel that I'm the one who, because of whom the battle happened? Or is this some kind of a politics that played around? Rather, I was a victim. My entire destiny was played around in a game of dice, and everyone thinks that I'm the one because of whom this battle happened. During those days, uh, it was not very likely for a woman to open her mouth in front of the men. Well, part of it still continues these days, because we still feel men perhaps are more powerful than the women. But yeah, at that time, Draupadi came out to be a very strong woman, because she could dare to ask, why is this happening to me in a court of men? Why am I being targeted or victimized? So this is about her plea. This is about those unseen layers of Draupadi's life. And this will be premiering, as I said, somewhere around June. It's going to be a 90 minutes production. As I said, this will be interspersed with narration, dialogues. The production starts with a like scene in the courtroom, which, and then she reminisces back right from her birth till the battle happened. End of the production, she asks the audience, you tell me whether I was at fault. Yeah. So this is called the unheard plea.